everyone, on this episode of Slasher Sunday, we're going to be going back to the golden age of gore with a little number called Alone in the Dark. But before we actually get into the video, again, I just want to say I'm sorry for basically dropping off the map all of a sudden like that. I had like a medical issue and I finally feel better and back up to 100% enough to continue making these videos. So, you know, here we go. I've got some stored up in the meat freezer next to the dead hookers and unvirgin meat, so it's all good. Alright, so this movie, having taken its name from a movie in 2005 starring Christian Slater, or rather that movie took the name from this movie, which would mean that it's a remake, but like the plot is totally different. It has nothing to do... You know what? Fuck that movie, and fuck Christian Slater. We're talking about the 1982 movie with the same title, so don't get confused. Actually, I'm really glad the 2005 movie isn't connected to this one at all, because the director of that movie also made the famously terrible video game turned movie House of the Dead. Yeah, that movie was great, right, kids? Jonathan Cherry. Why the fuck does that movie exist? Anyway, Jesus Christ, I digress. Okay, Alone in the Dark, 1982. So it was directed by Jack Shoulder, who gave us such classics as Arachnid, and one of my personal favorite horror movies, Wishmaster 2. Obviously, this guy knows what he's doing when it comes to horror, right? So the plot of this movie is unique. And when I say unique, I mean there's a bunch of psychos who break out of a Looney Tune convention and fucking paint the town red. So, you know, standard slasher flick stuff. Not very original, guys, okay? That's where I'm going with this. That's the joke. Jesus Christ, keep up. That's the quick version. The more fleshed out version is this guy hires this guy to watch over these guys after their previous doctor left. So this guy thinks that this guy killed the last doctor because he's insane. So then everyone just collectively agrees to kill this guy. So they break out and show up at this guy's house for a sleepover, and, you know, bada bing, bada boom, you got yourself a horror movie. Albeit not really a slasher film, but still. Anyway, so this movie starts off with the most unacceptable dream sequence of all time. Martin Landau arrives at a diner for the usual, and then suddenly gets strung up and castrated. Not even 3 minutes into the movie, and someone's already lost his twig and berries, his meat and 2 veg, his wedding tackle. Then they try to give the movie its own cool little creepy theme song, but it just kind of sounds like a hybrid of The Exorcist and Phantasm, which, if I'm being totally honest, is possibly the creepiest combination one could think of, but this is not it. This movie has a plethora of familiar horror faces. I mean, you got Donald Pleasance, Lynn Shay for you younger kids, and of course, Martin Landau. I mean, technically he's not a horror actor, but he did play Bela Lugosi in Ed Wood, so that counts. Bitch. Right, so the new doctor in town, Dr. Potter, shows up and gets a tour of the facility and meets the patients on the 3rd floor, you know, where they keep all the really crazy people like child rapists and arsonists and fans of Lil Wayne. What? There's this guy, he was a former preacher, you saw him in the beginning. He burned down a church with a bunch of people inside of it, like those bastard redcoats in The Patriot. Then there's Frank, who's an army vet with horrible PTSD. Then Biggie Smalls over here likes to touch kids. And then there's a legit serial killer known as the Bleeder. He gets nosebleeds every time for some reason. He also doesn't like to show his face. Anyway, I think it's also fair to mention Donald Pleasance's character uses mysterious methods to cure the patients, like, for instance, telling them this.
Move your hands in front of your face 3 times. Like that. Yes, and then the intestines will stay inside, and you won't turn to porcelain.
Right.
So in between that and the Looney Tunes escaping the hospital, nothing really happens. Dr. Potter's sister shows up because it's called building a foundation for a body count. I like this girl. She's a punk rock hippie environmentalist, which literally sounds worse than a Destiny's Child reunion. Anyway, while everyone's at a rock concert, a blackout occurs, and the electric fences and windows and shit keeping the funny farm locked down obviously becomes unlocked down, and that's when the gang escapes and makes their move. First person on the list to die is the nice black orderly. I say black because he is the first to die, and you know what they say. I'm just the messenger. Yeah, so the big show over here picks him up and fucking wham bam, thank you ma'am. Then they steal a car and book it into the night. The Potter family returns home, and that's when we meet the babysitter, Bunky. That's her name. Not Punky, Bunky. I'm also a fan of hers for scientific reasons that include a lot of research and development. She's hot, okay? That's lay off, alright? Anyway, we cut to the town in a state of panic as if the purge is 2 minutes away from starting and everyone's doing last-minute shopping. The psychos break into a weapons store and gear up, and then the Bleeder, who found his new look, decides to kill this guy. Then he just runs off into the night, and we never see him again. Okay, thanks for playing. There's also a scene where they run down a mailman in a van because the preacher wants his hat. This kind of shit is the reason I'm skipping through this movie. Anyway, Dr. Potter's wife and his sister decide to head out and do a protest about something because that's what environmentalists do, instead of actually caring for the world, they're too busy shouting at other people to stop hurting it. Then the Big Show breaks into the home and strikes up a conversation with the daughter. Remember folks, he likes to touch kids, so this'll probably end well. Ironically, the protest didn't end well, and they all are in jail now. And the daughter tells the big fat scary man to leave, and he does. Must be nice living in a fictional world where pedophile rapists listen to their victims. So while Dr. Potter's wife and sister are in jail, she asks Bunky, the babysitter, to go check on the kid at home. And in classic teenage girl from the late 70s and all of the 80s fashion, she calls her boyfriend over to have some fun. So that's what happens. And then she pulls the old I heard a noise gag, and he goes to check on it, and well, long story short, and the moral of the story is, this guy is fucking strong. Okay, now the fun starts. The family returns home after the daughter brings the cops into the mix with a false report. Nobody knows where Bunky went. We've also added this guy to the cast because, all together now, body count. And then this happens. I know I keep saying this for a lot of characters, but this guy's literally the epitome of body count. They ask the cop to stay for dinner. That is literally the most unrealistic thing I think I've ever seen in a horror movie. And I remember when the goat said bitch and dragged me to hell, okay? I remember that. I was there. You bitch! Yeah, so dinner time, right? There's a noise. The cop goes to investigate and, well, gee, didn't see that coming at all, did you? Now it turns into a your next situation. Everybody's trapped inside and the killers are outside wanting to get in. Hours go by, just sitting and waiting for nothing to happen. Enter Donald Pleasance again. Dr. Potter tries to get him to come inside, but he thinks he can help these crazies, so he gets his ear chopped off for his troubles, and then, well, I don't know what else because he's never seen again. Literally, I have no idea what happened to him. He was just sitting in his car holding his ear, and then the movie was like, ooh, what's that over there? And changed the subject. Anyway, the sister wanders off while the group tries to repair a thing, and she finds an open window. That's when we're greeted with... Seriously, one of the most effective jump scares I've ever seen. I wasn't expecting that at all. But it's okay, because it's just her imagination. The window was never open, you crazy bitch. And I know what you're thinking. When does the shit start hitting the fan, Brian? I'll tell you when. Right now. Hey, there's Bunky and her boyfriend. Meanwhile, the preacher sets a fire in the basement because calling card, I guess. Then he gets dealt with by Dr. Potter. Then the Big Show appears and tries his hardest not to be fat and clumsy, but that works out about as well as a Post Malone cologne. Ew. Straight trash. Okay, boils and ghouls, it's time for the spoiler section, so either take a short walk off a curb into traffic or sit down and deal with the spoiled ending because it's about to get bloody. Alright, so everyone's gone, I hope. So amidst the chaos, Dr. Potter is outside trying to start the cars up because horror movie cliches are the best, and inside, his sister is huddled up against the guy that they met in jail, but he's bleeding. Oh my god. He's dead. Here comes the classic look up and see a gory wound attached to the head bit. But wait, what's this? He's not wounded? He's just bleeding from his nose. It's the goddamn bleeder! Yo, my dude, get dealt with! Honestly, that was pretty shocking. I never put it together because there was never any clues. This is how you create a shocking ending to a horror movie. Now that everyone is dead, Frank comes into play. Remember, he's doing this because he's dead set on the fact that Dr. Potter killed their former doctor, so as luck would have it, and because it's a movie, the power comes back on and the TV turns on to a news reporter interviewing the fucking previous doctor who was presumed dead. Oh, well, goddamn. Thank Christ that happened, am I right? So Frank decides to not kill anyone and just leaves and goes to that club everyone was at earlier. Then it ends. Alright, well, the ending was terrible, but that was Alone in the Dark, guys. It's actually a solid movie. Very smart, and it doesn't ever feel like a cheesy slasher film. The acting isn't bad, the story is slightly unoriginal, but the whole package is fantastic. I give it a 9 out of 10. Okay, thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Please, for the love of God, you must do me this one kindness. And don't you ever forget. Until next time.
I want that